Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Locker Room Chat, brought to you by the Tacoma County Sports Museum. Hello, I am Jay Strickers, your honored host for today's Locker Room Chat, and we are extremely excited to have as our guests today on December 11, 2025, Bob Christofferson, the sodfather, and his grounds crew from Cheney Stadium to Safeco Field in T-Mobile Park, the home of the Seattle Mariners. Bob is a 2016 Tacoma County Sports Hall of Famer. Bob, and also all of your crewmates, welcome to the Locker Room Chat. Say hi, guys.
Hey, Jay.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. There we go. Bob, let's start a little bit with you in your younger years, and then we'll go ahead and evolve into your time as head groundskeeper, stadium manager again at Cheney Stadium, and up in Seattle at Safeco Field, and obviously also at T-Mobile Park. So talk to us just a little bit about your younger years, growing up in Tacoma, where you went to school, family, athletics, how you got into all these things evolving around sports in your early life.
Right, Jay. Thanks for having all of us here. I guess if you want to talk about my time, it has to start with my dad, because he was on the original ground crew at Cheney Stadium in 1960. And he worked all the way through my first year, which was 1981. I went to Stadium High School, played baseball, was a pitcher, first baseman. God, I can remember going to Cheney Stadium. Really, in 1963 was the first time I ever really remember the games. I know I went to a couple games in 62. 61, I was a little too young. The 61 team, that was the best team they say in the history of minor league baseball. So pretty good group of ball players. What else do you want off the top of my head?
Well, I know you played some ball. I know you coached some ball. Tell us.
Yeah. I went to Central Washington State College at the time. I was a pitcher for 2 years there. What else did you just say, Jay?
How about coaching?
Coaching, yeah. I coached my first year out of college. I coached at Stadium I was a JV coach, baseball coach, and then I moved over to Foss. That would have been 78, 79, 1980. Actually, I was the JV coach there for a couple of years. Had some really good teams, and then I was the varsity coach in 1980. We were okay. We weren't great, but I enjoyed it. But then I got the opportunity to go to work at Cheney. In 1981, the city of Tacoma, or actually Metro Parks, wanted Scotty Ryan, who was the head groundskeeper at Cheney, to take over all the parks. So he did Heidelberg, Peck, and South End Rec, and he had two assistants, two young guys, and they didn't want to do the Cheney Stadium. So I said, yeah, I can do that. So that's how it started. I learned a lot. It's good to learn in the Coast League. But, a lot of highlights over the years. But, I was named groundskeeper of the year for the Coast League. First time was in 1994, and then 1998 and 99 back to back. And then moved to Safeco in July of 2000. So a little bit different.
You betcha. Well,
at Cheney, did everything from changing the toilet paper to changing the light bulbs in the light towers. I used to climb up there, and so I'm a little more versatile than I am now.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, a lot of time. The good thing, my kids got to grow up there. Baseball's a great family sport, and I believe that truly. And I had really all my friends ended up coming to work for me in one form or another. So,
well, Bob, I think we've got a whole bunch of your friends right here with you today. So
yes,
we got a host of people here today. So I'm going to ask each of the folks joining us here today, please introduce yourself. You're from Tacoma area. Tell us where you went to high school and or college. what your main profession was in your working years, and then how did you get connected with Bob Christofferson? So open it up, guys. Who's going first? Okay.
I'll go first.
There you go, Michael.
Michael.
Name is Michael Meyer Dirk. I am the brother-in-law of Bob Christofferson. My little sister is Tyler and Lauren's mom. And I started, I went, born and raised right here in Tacoma, Washington. Went to Wilson High School and UPS, and I was a physical therapist during my working years. What's next?
Well, I think what's next is going to be Joe Rhea. Excuse me, or Joe Guzzo. I get you Rhea's. Here you go. I'm going to raise my hand here.
I can get Joe Rhea if you want me to.
Go, Joe.
Joe Guzzo here, born and raised in Tacoma, Stadium High School, Central Washington University. We were fortunate to live about 6 or 7 houses down from the Christofferson house. So that's how I met Bob, through my brother Dan, and also very fortunate that when the Cubs were in town, those were my first memories. When the Cubs were in town, Bob's dad would haul us to the Sunday doubleheaders, and we'd be at the park for 7, 8 hours. I don't know, but we spent a lot of Sundays there. And I got to start working for Bob at Cheney Stadium when I was going through college, and then I was fortunate enough to get hooked on with them up at Safeco as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Joe. Roger, you're up.
Hi, my name is Roger Cartwright. I'm from Auburn, Washington. Went to high school there. Went to Central Washington University as well. Played a little football there during my time, and then I got bored and went to law school at Gonzaga. After that, I'm still a lawyer. I'm planning on retiring at the end of May this year. I work for the federal government. Yeah. We can go on about that. My history with Bob is a little bit more different than the rest of these guys. I was one of the original guys at Safeco, so I worked for the previous administration. And nobody told us anything. I mean, I found out that day that the head groundskeeper had been fired and this guy called Bob Christofferson was coming in. And I was like, all right. And that's how we met. And we've managed to stay friends since.
Thank you, Roger. Greg, you're up.
Great. My name is Greg Christensen. I'm born and raised in Tacoma. Proud Bellarmine alum. Even prouder WSU Cougar. And I'm also a Lute. I got my MBA there. I worked in the financial industry at Russell for quite a while. Moved on to some banking. But I met Bob at Cheney in 1987. Prior to that, I had been vending there for a few years, shucking hot dogs and popcorn and whatever. And one Sunday, I believe it was, his assistant came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be on the grounds crew, and jumped at the chance, and very happy I did so. It's probably one of the best decisions I ever made from a minor league baseball wise. I got to do so many cool things with that field, and that led up to Safeco and T-Mobile. But more importantly, I got to meet one of the best guys ever. Plus, look at this group here. I love that. So all this friendship all became because of that. So happy to be here.
You betcha, Greg. Lauren, your turn.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm the daughter. So I'm from Tacoma. I'm actually sitting right now in the house that my dad grew up in. And of course I grew up at Cheney just because my dad was there and I was there all the time with him. He had one of those rare, unique jobs that allowed his family to be around him all the time. So I took full advantage of that, never really left. Well, I left his side only in the sense that I knew that I was fully protected wherever I went in the stadium. Everybody knew me. I had all of these guys here protecting me. And I grew up and had pretty idyllic childhood at Cheney Stadium. And then when he moved over to Safeco, I ended up joining the crew too at some point. Yeah, and kind of hard to beat childhood. That's me.
Thanks, Lauren. Dan, you're up.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm born and raised in Tacoma, but went to Central Washington State College with Bob. We were the same age. I met Bob in 1960. We've been friends ever since. Went to grade school, junior high, high school, and college together, and had an opportunity, as my brother Joe mentioned, going to Cheney Stadium. Saw a lot of games because Bob's father allowed us to do that. Occasionally, during some of the summers when the weather got a little foul, they needed a few hands to go rake and do whatever you could do at the field. And I remember doing that back in, I think that was in the late 60s. But went off and through college, I got a degree in recreational therapy. So that took me into Seattle, the Seattle area where I reside now. But Bob and I have always stayed in touch, in each other's wedding, that type of thing. So when he got the job at Safeco, he called me up and he said, "You think you want to work some games at the field?" And I said, "Doing what?" He said, "Well, groundskeeper." And I said, "Sure, love to do it." So I did that starting in the late 19, what would that be? 1990,
2000.
2000, excuse me. Yes, 2000. And then 2001, I became a game time grounds crew. And then in 2014, I became a day crew person and a game crew. So been around the game a long time, been around Bob as long as I can remember. But as Roger said, this is kind of a second family to me. It's all these people that we work together. We did everything together and took a lot of time, and it's been a wonderful experience.
That's great, Dan. And we're going to do a whole bunch of things together here tonight also. Roy, your turn.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I met Bob when we were both substitute teaching, and once I got a job at Foss High School as a baseball coach, I used to spend my lunch hours down at the field while he was kind of prepping the field pre-season before the team got to town. And then in 1994, I started working on the Cheney game crew, and then from there, the year after he moved up there, up to Seattle, then I moved up there and worked with him at Safeco, which is now T-Mobile. Thoroughly enjoy. He taught me so much about groundskeeping and just the love of working hard and the enjoyment of looking at the field when you're done with it, and how much fun it is.
That's great, Roy. I know the condition of your fields there at the Foss back in the day were legendary for absolutely the best fields anywhere around before I got the field turf.
Yes.
Tyler, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Tyler Christofferson, Bob's oldest son, or only son, oldest child. Let's see. I grew up at the park. My dad was in his third season the year I joined the world, and I probably started on the crew unofficially age 5, maybe. I was just taller than a base. And pulled tarps probably starting at age 8, and helped each and every one of these guys on the field pick up the rakes, hold the hose, drag the field, whatever it was. Just kind of dinked around in the largest playground a kid could have. And then let's see, I was 15, so that was probably 98. I joined the Tacoma Rangers as a bat boy. Did 2 seasons there, and then when my dad moved up to the Mariners, he got permission for my sister and I and other family members to join. So I joined the Mariner grounds crew officially in 2001 and was there through 2015. and a small stint as kind of like Dan, full-time day crew and game crew as I was going through college. So lots of time on the field.
You betcha. Great, Tyler. Great to have you. Great to have everybody with us here today. Now, I know each of you have many stories to share with us today about your groundskeeping days. The old trials and tribulations of keeping wonderful turf here in the great Northwest in our springs certainly has got to be a challenge. We're going to talk a little bit about the ins and outs of groundskeeping, rain mowing patterns, the mound, player idiosyncrasies, equipment, weather reports, facilities that you worked at, the people that you've met over the years. We want to hear about that in the decades, players, coaches, umpires, media, mascots, celebrities, ground crews, entertainment, dances, promotions, connections with Foss High School. We've talked a little bit about that, security issues, and certainly teamwork, camaraderie, and culture. I think if there's anything I can think about this group right here, Bob, that you brought together, it was work hard and play hard, enjoy all of it along the way. So, Bob, is there anything else you want to start with here that you can think to set us off before we start getting into some of these deeper issues here, topics regarding your groundskeeping day?
No, I think it'd be good to get right into the show.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw out a topic, and if somebody wants to weigh in right away, you can do so. If we get a hesitation, Bob's going to call on somebody, or I am. But again, the great Northwest, we've had a ton of rain here the past 3 or 4 days. Drying fields, Doppler coming into TV. Who wants to take on that topic and tell us a little bit about those efforts and what you all went through to make sure you could get through the rainy days here in the great Northwest?
Yeah, I think we could play tonight.
Just a little atmosphere, Graver.
No doubt.
I hated rainouts, hated them with a passion. If I went home, and when I first started working at Cheney, I lived really close to the ballpark. So I just hated it, especially if the rain stopped. So in 1998, I think, we led the league with the least number of rainouts, which was 0. We played a lot of 5-inning games. I think there were several guys on this today that were with me on that. And, I had a good relationship with the umpires, excellent relationship with the coaches, the managers, obviously. I remember Bob Boone. He didn't like playing in the rain, but we did. So there were a lot of good things. Anybody else have something?
Stories, guys, about getting the field prepped. Any incidents you can think of that would be good for us to hear about.
Dad, maybe tell them about the before the diamond dry and all, like when you're in the 60s, the helicopter drying out the field back then.
Oh yeah, well, there was a period of time when Cheney first opened, they had a tarp. It was an old rubber tarp, and if you left it on the field at any length of time, and burned the grass, those were hard days. And then there was a period of time when they went without a tarp, and we had a tarp for the mound and plate, but that was it. And water would get everywhere. And I remember they'd dump a load of sand, and we'd put the whole load of sand on home plate, the infield, everything, and just dry it out so the guys could play the game. Those were some tough days. And then we brought on opening day, and I wasn't there, but they had to dry it. They spent 2 days drying the field out with helicopters from McCord. And of course, Dan and I both got to ride in them a few times, which was kind of fun. Just hover above the field and let the wind hit the dirt, and hopefully it'd dry it out and play a ball game. I remember when I first started working, I was an usher, but I'd work on a ground crew until time to open the gates or we were ready to play or whatever. And we used to use diesel to to dry out the dirt. And I remember one time I'm ushering, and batter swished his cleats in the batter's box, and a flame went up. I started laughing. So I remember the first day at Diamond Dry. Oh, Diamond Dry, we could, if I've thrown one bag, I've thrown them probably tens of thousands of bags of Diamond Dry on the field. Used more at Safeco just because that's the way the field was designed, and the evolution of the dirt and it's called turfus. It's calcifying clay, and use that as a barrier between the cleats and the clay dirt, because clay dirt would cake up on your cleats if you didn't have the product on there. So, and that was a fine art to try and make sure that was the right consistency, especially, I mean, at Cheney, not so much, but at Safeco, is the roof going to be on that day? Is it off? Groundskeepers become pretty good weathermen. Pretty good weather. I mean, it's an integral part of the day, because I can remember pulling sharp 10 times in a day. It's probably the reason I had a pinched nerve in my back and still can't feel my toe. So, but somebody mentioned.
Bob, you said you became good weathermen. What does that mean? Groundskeepers become good weather people.
But you got to know. At Cheney, the wind would blow, and you got to read the weather, whether it's going to hit the field or not. And is it in game time, or is it pregame, or we get the field ready and tarp it up in case it was going to rain, and then you got to know when to take it off. Got to tell the managers, the players, the umpires. Everybody depends on you to, they all think you're a weatherman.
Sure. So did the initiation of Doppler help at all to make your decisions as weather people?
When we first started at Cheney, I'd call McCord Air Force Base, and their pilots would tell the guy, what the conditions were, and they were pretty accurate. But one day after a game, Roy and I are sitting in the Oak Room, which is a little room where we got to relax a little bit, and they were showing a Doppler showing, it should be raining. We looked at each other and said, well, it should be raining. Well, we ran out and it was pouring down. I said, oh, that's a pretty good invention. So that helped us. I had a great relationship with King 5 News and Rich Marriott. I actually had the Doppler that I could control in my office. All the computer and everything was at King 5, and I'd have to call Rich up if it was down and say, Rich, I can't, I'm not seeing anything. He goes, oh, let me turn it on for you. I said, come on. We got a game to play. So I still talk to Rich now, and I remind him every once in a while that time when we first learned Doppler. So that's a really good, and now it's on everybody's phone. So,
okay, let me ask you this quick question, because people want to play the game, but before the game, who determines if the game's going to be postponed, canceled? If the game is started and you're playing it, who makes the determination that we're going to pause the game or not? Is that an umpire decision? Do you
once the game starts, it's the umpires. Prior to that, it was the GM, or in the case at Safeco, although we didn't have to worry about that, we open and close the roof. But I pretty much made those decisions, all of them, over the years. So, and the umpires, especially in the Coast League, they got to the point where they just asked me what the heck, and, they trusted me. We played a doubleheader on Mother's Day one time, and it started at noon, and we ended at 1 a.m.
There you go.
A lot of work.
A great segue to umpires. Obviously, you folks have run into a lot of different umpires through the years. Some are on first base, third base, behind the plate. I'd have to think that you got to know a lot of them. Any stories or any insights you've got about umpires and your take on their role in baseball and your interactions with them?
Probably not a lot of detailed stories that we can tell. I had a really, really, really good relationship with the umpires. My wife and I would have them over for dinner. I mean, they're on the road all the time. They don't have a home. Yep. So they're on the road all the time. So, got to know them well. I was probably the only groundskeeper in major leagues that would go in and talk to the umpires before the game every day, whether it was raining or not. So I got to know them all pretty well, some better than others, and they do a great job. I couldn't have a relationship with the robo umpire that they're going to have coming up, but everything evolves. Everything evolves.
It sure does.
I think Jay, there's you say, did you have any stories of the umpires? Like Bob says, you can't tell all the stories, but you can talk about a couple of them that I don't think anybody would have any dispute or they would not question you whatsoever. What's that?
Let's hear a story.
Well, Joe West. Everybody knows Joe West, Big Joe West.
Country Joe.
But Bob would have certain things on the field that every umpire would allow us to do. But when Joe West was out there, he wanted to rule the roost. And so you would hope that you could get done with what you wanted to get done. But Joe West would usher you off sometimes. And the first time, I thought he was joking when he was talking to me. He goes, "Yeah, go ahead and get off the field." And so I just kept there and kept working. And he said, "I said, get off the field." So there were a few umpires that you just didn't want to ruffle their feathers.
Or you wanted to,
you love to, actually, just to see the reaction. But, yeah, Joe West was one. He was a peach.
Yeah. So, talk to us a little bit here about how you got into this. This is at Safeco now and at T-Mobile, into the dancing routines and the Macarena and all of that, because I think that was an era that just kind of popped everybody. If you went to the game or you're watching it on TV, it's everybody and just thinking, are they going to do it or not? Is it going to happen or not? How'd you folks even get into such an idea? How did that evolve? How did you had to have some training to make it work? Who decided if you were going to do it? Talk to us.
Well, I was the trainer.
I'm done. I'm out.
That's why we looked the way we did.
The first dances we did was the Macarena at Cheney. It was on the last day of the season. I know Mike, his nickname was Reuben Kincaid, because he drove the bus. He was the one that taught us all that. And I don't know how many of you guys actually did dance. I know Roy did. Greg, did you dance?
I danced at Cheney.
Yeah. And that went over. The crowd loved it. And then the next year we did Men in Black, and we wore black tuxedos. And Roy's daughter Mackenzie was in the rhubarb outfit, and she danced with us. And I remember when we'd rehearse after games, put it on the PA system, and I remember getting a call from Furcrest that we were till midnight. We were practicing. We had to practice a lot at Safeco. That's the reason we ended up stopping. It just took so much time and effort, and then we started doing different auctions. Would ask us to come and dance, and it was quite a deal. Raj, you were on the first. Hey, Mike, you both on the dance one, which was pretty amazing, actually.
At Safeco, yes.
We didn't know what the heck the response was going to be. We used to rehearse up in the garage, and then we were walking down. I don't think anybody spoke to anybody. And on the way back, people were high-fiving us and just saying that was the greatest thing. It was good, but I thought the game, some of these fans wanted to know if we were dancing rather than if the Mariners were going to win or not. But it was good. We danced, I don't know how many, 5-6 years? I can't remember. Yeah.
It was longer than that.
Was it?
Yeah. I would say, I think in the origin of it, at Cheney, you just danced once a year. It was at the end of the season, and you did it twice. And then you went up to Safeco, and I think they knew that you had danced, like management knew you had danced and thought, hey, can you do that here? I don't know if it was kind of a play on the Yankees thing.
It was. It started out, the Yankees did the YMCA, and my two assistants at the time were not year-round full-time, and I said, you give these guys full-time jobs and we'll dance. And I said, I'll dance all the time. I don't care. I'm not going to make my guys do it if I'm not going to do it. So Yeah, I couldn't. Raj, you might be able to remember what the first song was, or Mike. I don't. But we did quite a few songs.
I remember
Casey
play
and the
that funky
Sunshine.
music. White Boy was on the docket list, and we were practicing to that. And then
got X'd.
Yeah. And then,
Wow,
Good choice.
whose permission did you have to get to do this? I mean, it isn't.
Well, we didn't
something
come up with
you
any
did
of
on
it.
your own, was it?
I think it was Kevin McCarthy.
No,
Kevin
Martinez.
Martinez.
Kevin Martinez is the one that started with me, and we talk every day whether we're going to dance or not. It was fun, I guess.
There were a few times in game. There were a few times in game where, because the Mariners were in the field, right when we'd go out to dance, they'd be walking off the field, and so there were a few times where they'd give up, 6, 7 runs or whatever it was, and we'd make a call, be like, "Hey, this drive ain't happening tonight." We're
call a press box and say, "I don't think." And we should have done. There was one time we're playing the Yankees. We danced to New York in tuxedos, and the next night we went, and I didn't have my A crew, Freddie Garcia was just getting smoked. And I think they scored like 8 or 9 runs, and everybody was booing him with Mariners off the field. And we go on, and we can't hear the music. So we missed the start. And I just said, "Hey, let's get out of here." And so they booed us. Remember, Roger Clemens got a real kick out of that. The players actually liked it. I think the players really liked it. Brett Boone was a character. Yeah.
Well, from a fan's perspective, I just know the anticipation was right there. Are they going to do it or are they not going to? And when you broke out into it, the place just got really excited and everybody was fired up, and it was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
When you saw that rake twirl, right?
Yeah.
The twirl of the rake.
That was the sign.
It's the sign.
I got a question here for Roy. Roy, your daughter was rhubarb for a while. Is that right?
Well, one day, just for the dance.
That was enough.
Yeah.
That was as long as she could handle the smell of that head of the mask.
It was an old black Tacoma uniform, because we were doing Men in Black, and she spent time with us in the practice and just put it on, and then as soon as we got done, she had to take it off because it was that bad.
Mm-hmm. I think what's a noteworthy story, I guess, is that when we started it the very first year, I want to say it was mid-January or end of January, we started going up to Bellevue to a dance studio, and it was a choreographer for the Sonics, I believe, who was training us. So we walk in, and I mean, 8, 9, 10 guys, overweight, all left foot, and then all these girls are dancing. They're probably junior high and high school who are working on it. And they all came over to the window to look at us, and we are bumping into each other. And that Stephanie, she's like, "Okay, I got to scale back here. Hold on a minute here. We're going to reevaluate this." So, but she hung in there with us because she trained us for
every time,
more than 5
every
years.
dance.
I'd say more like 10 years.
I think it went through 2014, didn't it?
Yeah,
it started in
02.
02, yeah,
through 14.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Chili dip. I know there's a little story here about chili dip. We got to hear this one, and I
chili.
because some nicknames have come out of this one. But who'd like to lead us in the chili dip saga?
Chili rice.
Chili rice.
Yeah.
Well, it was a promotion to get a new car lease for a year. They had a hot tub on a trailer, and it started with beans and Kool-Aid, and it would sit out in the parking lot for the whole homestand, sometimes depending on how bad it started to smell. And because it was filled with water along with the Kool-Aid and stuff, it would slush over. And so we had to carry Diamond Dry and our rakes out there. And a lot of the contestants had a few beverages. And so as like they win and they find the keys in the bottom of this hot tub, and they're all excited and standing up, and I would yell at them, sit down, so that the teacher lifeguard in me kind of kicked in a little bit and wanted them to sit down so they didn't dump over. And we were, as the trailer was pulling off, we were always kind of cleaning up, throwing Diamond Dry down, scooping up any beans that maybe splashed out onto the field. It was not a fun promotion for the grounds crew.
Yeah, we went. They drove we drove the cart out to second base.
Yeah.
And then had to back it off, if I recall.
Yeah.
I think maybe. I thought they did a little figure eight out.
Yeah. The first year the Toyota Tacoma, so they were
Right.
They were marketing the new truck, and man, that hot tub was nasty smelling. Ugh. People dive in head first, coming up with water in their mouth.
Oh, nasty. Nasty.
Ugh. Ugh.
Right,
That
you
was
gotta tell 'em how you got to think.
That was a Dave Bean promotion.
Yeah.
Well, that's fitting.
Right.
He was
worked.
the GM.
So this evolved into a nickname for Roy, is that right?
Yeah, we had a young developmentally disabled young man that used to be around us all the time, Tony Metacheski, and we'd call him Chili Roy. Well, Tony thought we were saying Chili Rice, so he called him Chili Rice, and so that nickname stuck.
It's still to this
To
day.
this day.
Yeah.
You're in my phone as Chili Rice.
Mine
Stuck all the
too.
way to an email address, I believe.
That is my
And there
email.
you go. That one wasn't taken.
Owners, I believe there's some stories here. I know you can talk about some things you can't, but George Foster became the owner, and he was around and pretty visible. Any scenarios with George that would be good for all of us to hear and understand a little?
George could have been the best owner in the game. He owned Foster Farms Chicken, had more money than but he just didn't understand it. So I mean, there's a couple of them. We had Bloody Sunday, which was a day that good umpire friend of mine. He's Bob. I got to talk to your owner. He can't be in the dugout during the game. It's a league rule. I said, "Oh, good." So I told George. I said, "Hey, the umpires want to see you." Well, he got upset, really upset, and I think he fired Greg. Greg, did he fire you?
He did. I called Bob, panicked. Bob basically said, "I'll see you tomorrow." So you know how that works. So
Yeah, that was the first day it was a Sunday afternoon, and
yeah, you weren't there. That's right.
Cindy wanted to go to a movie, so it was the one day I said, "Hey, finish this up." Greg called me later. I said, "Don't worry about it. Come back tomorrow." And, so
It extended past Greg. I mean, that was concession workers.
Yeah.
oh no, yeah,
I mean, it was.
he fired about 50 people that day.
Yeah, if you saw
okay.
him, you
So-
were done.
Yeah. I guess the other one that was probably a little better was post game one day. It was an afternoon Wednesday game, and I'm going out to we do our post game stuff, and all of a sudden George has got a ice chest full of ice cream, and he comes and he sits down in the middle of the infield grass, and about 50 concession workers joined him. I said, "What are you guys doing?" He said, "We're going to have a little ice cream social." I said, "Okay, all right." Tyler was walking with me, so I happened to have my remote control for the sprinkler system. So I'm walking down first base, and I just happened to turn it on, and
Oops.
Oops.
he got upset. He called the mayor. The mayor laughed. They all laughed. Everybody laughed. I mean, it was, I'd let him go out in the outfield or somewhere, but have enough respect to ask me.
The thing that is an overarching backstory to that is that if you knew Bob, you knew the infield grass was not to be touched. Unless you had cleats with the intention of playing a baseball game professionally, you weren't on it at any time. And
including me.
Including
George
me.
And all the people with their ice cream knew that, and anybody that walked into the stadium knew that, and so it was deliberate, and there was a sprinkler involved, so it was fun.
Well, Tyler, that's a nice segue to, let's talk about the field and the turf and the grass, how you mowed it, the directions that you mowed it, about the mounds. I think there's some idiosyncrasies that pitchers had about the mounds and how they wanted them structured, et cetera. So let's just talk about that some. I mean, you go up, our TAC, we meet, the first, second Thursday of every month in the Summit Room at Cheney Stadium, and you look out on the field, and everybody marvels at it. You go to Safeco or to a T-Mobile Park, and you just can't believe how wonderful those fields look, and the lines and everything that you do. So talk to us a little bit about that, and how you decide how to mow it, which directions to mow it, and again, the mound issue.
Well, I'm a traditionalist, so I like the checkerboard pattern. I think it looks best on television. When we were at Cheney, we weren't on television very often, but when we were, I liked looking at it, and it always made the pattern stand out. So I wanted something that was, that the fans could appreciate. The number one objective is to make it good for the players, and then the aesthetics come in afterwards. But you can do both of them together. So we usually did a checkerboard pattern, and then when we got to Safeco, in the summer or late spring, the ball would snake in the grass, following each pattern of the that's mowed on the field. And I mean, a ball could move up to 6 feet. And when you're charging a ball in the outfield, that's not an ideal situation. So Mike Cameron called me and asked me to come in the clubhouse, and all the outfielders were in there. I said, "Is there any way you can alleviate that?" And I said, "Well, I'll mow straight up the middle of center field." And we did that. And then the next year it evolved. Well, if we can do it for the center fielder, we can do it for the right fielder and the left fielder. And that's how we ended up getting to that. Maybe other guys have more thoughts on it, but that's the basics.
What do you got, folks? Who else?
Yeah, I think what Bob's talking about is we heard it a lot, not necessarily from the players, but we heard it a lot from the aesthetic standpoint. And Bob knew what he needed to do for the players to enjoy the game and to know what the ball was going to do. But the fans really took to all these different patterns that we would put on the field. And when they had fan fest, people would come and they say, "How do you do that? Yeah. I want to do that on my lawn. How do I do that?" Yeah. And so you'd sit there and you'd ask them, "Well, what kind of mower do you have?" and everything else. And you tell them if you have a rotary mower, it's kind of difficult to do. You're going to get your wheel marks, but that's probably all you're going to get. But if you had a real mower, that's how you lay the grass one way, and then you turn around and you lay the grass the other way. But Jay, I'll tell you a little story. It was probably 2017 or 2018. I was walking on the track, and this elderly woman came over and she said, "Hey, could you come here for a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" She says, "Well, I have a friend here from out of town, and we're talking about how beautiful the grass is. And I'm telling this lady, this is AstroTurf." I said, "Well, how many games do you come to?" She says, "I'm a season ticket holder." I said, "And you think it's artificial grass, and your friend thinks it's real grass?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, she's right and you're wrong." She was amazed that the grass could look like that and have it real grass. Yeah. So it just goes to show what Bob was able to do with the different patterns and how aesthetically pleasing it was to not only the players but the fans.
Yeah. So let's go
I think
through.
also with that, can I just say, like, with kind of piggybacking on what Tyler said earlier, the grass is sacred. Certainly the infield itself is more sacred. You don't walk on it. You don't roll things across it. We have such a big crew at Safeco when we were there, just because you don't do something alone. You don't wheel something off by yourself. You don't drive on the grass. You carry it together. You don't leave wheel marks. You don't walk on it. You don't stand on it if you don't have to. The outfield, you can go on it, but you would never see one of us wheel something across it. And if you did, you wouldn't see us back tomorrow. Like, so you just don't go on the grass.
It is
And we all
truly
know
hallowed
that.
ground.
Yeah, it's hallowed, sacred ground, and you respect it, and that is a big reason why it looks so good all the time, because he was so, like, you controlled everything that happened on the grass and on the field. You knew exactly who was coming out there. You made sure there wasn't extra things that didn't need to be there, and if people were on the grass, you yelled at them to get off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a home stand. You're going to have home games for 2 weeks. How often would you mow the grass? Infield more than outfield? The same?
All of them every day.
Every day.
Yeah, and then they'd go out of town, and we'd probably at Safeco we'd aerify and sand it and get it ready, give it a couple days rest, and mow it every other day. Or the closer you got to the next homestand, we'd start mowing the pattern back in.
Yeah.
We mowed a neutral pattern when they were out of town. So.
Yeah. And so I don't know, you can see my picture behind me. Any of the light colored grass lines are the direction you're looking is the direction the mower went. The dark lines are the opposite. You're coming back towards you. And it's got a roller on the back side of the reel that the mower pushes it down. So if we mowed it in that pattern all the time, the grass would just start leaning and wouldn't get a clean cut. So as my dad said, mow a neutral pattern, which would be opposite or maybe across what our standard pattern is when the team left. So we got a good cut. And then a couple days before they were back, put the regular pattern back in so that it was shining for game one.
Yeah.
Well, the average person wouldn't realize that that's a difference if that ball is bouncing into the grain or with the grain, huh? It's like a putting surface.
Exactly.
Joe would know, but so how do they deal with a field like that? Got to drive them nuts, because the patterns now seem to be all over the place in baseball.
Some of them are.
Some of them are, but you can see again, the pattern right behind me, which is the one we started mowing in 02, 03, something like that, and called a fan. It became the predominant mow pattern in all of baseball because it looks good and the players like the way it played. And so teams, stadiums, Dad, I'm sure you got calls on it. Why'd you do it? How'd you do it? When'd you do it? And that started going to every park, more or less.
Right.
Well, what a great compliment to BC here and to all you folks for having that picked up. Wonderful. How about the mound? Now, I've read some of your notes. Some pitchers were specific about the mounds and what kinds of things they wanted, or who can talk to a little about the mound? You talk about the infield being sacred. I'm sure the mound's pretty sacred.
I think the mound's the most sacred thing, most sacred place. And we talked to the pitchers. I'd never talked to them right after the game because they're too emotional. And if they got hit up a little bit, it ain't my fault. So
especially the lefties.
But the platform, give them a big enough platform. Most of those pitchers are big. And so we give them a big flat top, and then we used a product called Gumbo. It's a really dark clay, and you could moisten it to get it as soft as you wanted within reason. So, and that's what we did for each pitcher. We talked to them. Yeah.
So, did this become a home field advantage for the home field pitchers?
I think playing at home is always an advantage because, I know what the players want. I always told them, I don't want you thinking about what's under your feet. you should know what's under your feet and how it's going to play and what it's going to do. Some guys, third baseman might like it really wet. David Bell, I remember when he got traded to Philadelphia, the groundskeeper there, he says, Bob, I can't please this guy. What do you do? I said, you wet it as much as you think you should wet it, and then double that. And that'll be good for David. Because he wanted the ball to be slowed down once it was hit.
So now obviously
there were pitchers that and hitters too. Ichiro wanted the in front of home plate crazy wet. And Felix wanted his ground balls that he was giving up to die. So on days he pitched, whoever was working the plate put twice the water down in front.
Yeah. So across the league, then, groundskeepers like you were doing this for the home team players,
right?
Sitting team, I would assume, probably didn't have much input into how the home teams take care of their fields.
Slope the baseline. So our guys, first and third base, I'd remind them once or twice. You say, hey, if it's rolling true, it's going to be fair or it's going to be foul. I remember one time in a playoff game on a Sunday, the Yankees were taking batting practice, and they all came out and said, he changed the slope of the baselines. I hadn't done anything. I said, whatever you guys think.
Yeah,
but to that too, Jay, a lot of stadiums will have their infield grass longer than others, so that it would slow the ball down. Some had it real short, so it made for a faster infield. So you had the grass and you had the dirt. When he's talking about David Bell, he's talking about the dirt being so wet, but it was dependent on the stadium and who they had as infielders, what they wanted. If they wanted it slow, they leave the grass a little longer.
I remember Jorge Posada was catching. I don't know if any of the rest of you guys remember this, but somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, Jorge wants water on home plate." So I said, "Well, go give him a bottle of water and let him have it." So he took the bottle of water out, and he said, "No, I want it on the dirt." He said, "You're not. Don't have Seattle on your jersey. I don't care what you want."
Yeah.
How about special seasons, special events? All-Star 2001 was a magical year, certainly for the Mariners. Thoughts about that era than anybody?
I think my opening homestand was July 8, 9, 10, I think, in 2000. And I remember on Sunday, and the place was sold out every day. I remember on Sunday, I just kind of walked out of my office in the tunnel and I said, they're paying me to do this. So that was, okay. But I loved it. I loved the crowd. I loved being at the ballpark all different times. Being there by myself, either late at night or early in the morning, and being there with the full crowd. It was all fun. All different. Every hour was different. We orchestrated things to when we're going to mow or we're going to water the field. First time at Safeco, we'd water the field like on a hot day 4 times before the game. So you're just trying to keep the moisture to the level that the ball's going to play real well on.
So you see water the field. That would be with the handheld hoses. Is there a
1-inch hose?
How does that work?
1-inch hose, quick couplers, and first time I do it with my thumb, and the last time we do it with a little nozzle. So you're just trying to get it just right. And, a little difficult because sometimes the visiting team would come out at 2:00 for early batting practice, and then we'd come out. And so you try to get things done. Ball players, when they walk on the field, they just want to go play.
Yeah.
And they'll complain later.
Yep.
I didn't get a lot of complaints. There weren't very many complaints. I had a lot of, especially even visiting teams, they liked playing. I can't remember when I retired, somebody put something on Twitter. Ty, you'd remember it. That he loved pitching on our mound.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, how about some of the
sorry, the mound and pitching. after the 2001 playoffs, the Yankees came in here and dominated a pretty darn good baseball team. And Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte both proclaimed it was the best mound they ever pitch off, and it showed with Roger Clemens' one-hitter complete game, shutout.
Best game I've ever seen pitch. Yeah.
You talk about home field advantage. They came, and I think the reason they loved it is because the mound was probably sloped perfectly to what it drops an inch every foot away from the rubber, and you can just tell on TV that they're not all created equal. Oakland's always had a massive mound top, and they're all different. They all vary.
I know Jay wants to talk about the special events. Sorry, but Jay, I feel like, Dad, you created a tool to build mounds that is like your creation, and you maybe just talk about the clay bricks that you use and that actual tool that you use to measure it to make sure that it's perfect, and it just looks perfect.
Yeah, it was called slope bar. We put it on to make sure that everything was sloping right at the way. And that's like I said, the platform on a mound needs to be big enough for these guys so they're not going down off the slope on the back. And then and we even did that at the high schools. High schools loved it when we redid their mounds. So then we had the slope bar and just molded it, play with it, use your rake, play with it, make it perfect. At Cheney, we used blocks, got them from Mutual Materials. They were unbaked bricks, and I'd change them, I don't know, every 5 or 6 games.
And now you get a special event. You get a band's going to come in when the team's on the road. And I assume they wipe out your mound. They cover the whole field.
No, we wouldn't let them touch the mound. The only time we ever tore the mound down was for the bowl game, the Seattle Bowl.
Okay.
The first concert we had at Safeco was Paul McCartney.
Yes.
When they were negotiating the deal, they wanted to plan a certain day, and so our guys that were negotiating asked me, he said, well, how much time do you need after to get it ready for a game? We played 2 days later, and they were negotiating with us in San Diego, and San Diego you have to have 3 days. So the groundskeeper called me up after we cut the deal, and I said, listen, you guys have done concerts all the time. This is our first concert, so we needed to show them that we could do it. And it was good. We used a product called TerraPlast, and take the whole crew plus 8 hours to cover the whole field. And of course, we try and pick it up as quick as we could as soon as it was over. And
there you go. Any stories with players, coaches, Ichiro, anybody else visiting players coming through, or managers that were most of them, I'm sure, pretty serious? They're just there about doing their business, playing the game.
Not all of them.
Not all.
Not all of them.
Well, there you go.
I love David Ortiz, because David Ortiz would joke with everybody on the crew and talk and have fun. When he got in the batter's box, he was serious. As soon as he touched home plate after he went around the bases, he could get back to his jovial self. I loved him. Derek Jeter, same way. I liked him. Alex was pretty good. He wasn't good to me in my first year, but he was a pretty good guy. They it's their job. It's their business.
Yeah.
And so you take them. I didn't care whether the visiting guys didn't like it or not. I did if I thought it was the field's fault.
Yeah.
But I don't ever recall that being the case.
How was Lou Piniella?
I loved him.
Yeah. I would say this, go ahead, Bob.
Lou, after the first homestand and the All-Star break, and the team came back home and played, we're playing on national TV against Texas on a Saturday, and the roof failed. We had to put the tarp on. So now you get real close to the manager and the players because they want to know when they're going to play again. And that was good for me because I was able to talk to Lou and tell him, hey, we'll have the field ready by this time and all that. Oh, I'm yeah. Tyler, Mom wants you to talk about Cal Ripken, who was just some of the great players are just great people. Ty, tell the
yeah. So that story goes with the 2001 season, which I briefly mentioned. Obviously, 116 wins. Seattle hosted the All-Star game. It was my dad's first full season. Most of the guys on this call were on that crew and a part of that game, which was an insane weekend or insane week. I actually got a paycheck, that said Major League Baseball on it rather than Baseball Club of Seattle or whatever the Mariner LLC, whatever it's called is. But so Cal Ripken and Tony Gwynn were honored that year as special commissioner guests. I think it was the first time the commissioner had brought guys in that weren't either voted in. It was their last season. So two Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers playing the All-Star game. Of course, Cal hits that home run in his first at bat and wins the MVP award in his last All-Star game. It happened in Seattle, and my dad, my best buddy Mike, and I are right next to the visiting dugout in what was the umpire tunnel or the access tunnel from my dad's office to the field. So right near home plate. And there's probably 60 media members stacked up behind us waiting for the end of the game. And between us and the media members were a few MLB folks, and one of them had the All-Star Game MVP trophy. And we knew it was going to Cal. And so final out happens. We flip the gate open. The three of us walk out and move over because this stampede of people is going to come, and they're trying to get their interviews and whatever else. And the poor gentleman with the MVP trophy trips. And he was a full garage sale, and that thing flies 10 feet, whatever, hits the ground and completely separates from the base. So if you ever look up, and you wouldn't know because all trophies look different, Cal Ripken is just holding up this glass orb that, if you didn't know, it's missing the entire black, inscribed pedestal base to it. So that's I think my first introduction to Cal Ripken, in his final year. Well, he was making his farewell tour, and he came back to Seattle in September, late September, and the Mariners kind of honored him all weekend, and he was DHing at the time, and it's the Sunday game, so his last game in Seattle, and we're going to do the drag, and all of our crew. We had a little, I think it was the visiting clubhouse media room, but we would wait in there while we're waiting because we'd come out for the drag out of the visiting dugout. And so we're waiting in there, and I realized I didn't have my gloves. And so I ran back down the hallway into my dad's office, grabbed my gloves, and came back in. And when I went through the door to the clubhouse, I just popped it open because it's an empty area. Well, I nearly took Cal out because he was working out, staying loose in between at bats. I almost ended the Ironman. And he's got his bat and he's just running the hallway. And so he's going back and forth. And I said sorry and just walked down the end of the hallway, turned the corner, and he yells, hey, get back here, get back here. So, of course, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm going to listen to Cal Ripken. And so I turned back, came up to him, and he goes, you see that fly right there? It's, and it's just big, fat, lazy fly that was struggling to stay airborne. And he goes, watch this. And he chokes up on the bat, and I'm looking at him going, no way. And he goes, wow. It took him 10 seconds to just eyeing this thing, fly straight to the ground. And he goes, "You got anything?" So I grabbed out my batting gloves that I just had, and I picked it up. And he bent over, and we meet at like waist height, like 6 inches apart. And he looks at me and he goes, "When you tell that story, it was 7 flies, 1 swing." I've yet to tell the story that way, but that one That was great. I wish I had the fly.
That's an unforgettable story.
I did not keep it. So that was how our 2001 there was a whole season of unreal memories and experiences, and of course 9/11 and then into the playoffs and all the things that meant, and the carrying the flag, and it was a special time.
You bet. Typical day. You've got a game at 6:05, 6:35, whenever. What time do you arrive? What time do you leave, folks?
Me, I got there usually 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and left about an hour after the game.
Yeah.
I was an all-day guy.
Yeah.
The game crew would come in, I think, about 2 hours before the game started.
5 o'clock.
Batting practice had already started, and day crew was leaving, game crew, and some of them kind of overlapped. Dan. I mean, a lot of you guys worked a lot of hours, more than some of the other guys.
So
I always liked having people that they knew what I wanted, and these guys all did.
So how did the teaching come
That's,
about?
you know what, that's like, we knew what we had to read your mind. We didn't really have another choice. Good time to maybe talk about your hand signals, and communication sometimes isn't.
I thought it was the greatest communication in the world, because we're on opposite sides of the field. If I wanted to go take the tarp off the bullpen, I'd put my fist up like a bullpen and I go, "Tarp," and get out of here.
Take the tarp off, Ty.
No.
If you were tired, you were speaking Chinese.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was doing all this, but they'd be like, "Go do that," and then you go do that, and you go, "What are you doing?"
And then Greek if he's rested.
So, were there certain things that the rookies did when you first got there, and did you evolve to a point where you got to the expertise, you could mow the infield, work on the mound, do the striping? How did that all evolve?
Not too many people mowed the infield. It was mostly me. And then for the All-Star game, I was so busy. I asked Roy to mow it. Roy, you tell that story.
Well, the game guys, because Bob had been there for 1 year, because he came in after the All-Star game the year before. The day guys and Bob's assistant couldn't believe that he was letting me mow. I guess he just trusted me from all the years being at Cheney, and the fact that I mowed up at Foss all the time with most of his equipment. But he trusted me.
Sure he did. Yeah.
Ty, you mowed the infield a lot.
I did the 2 years that I was in college working the full time during the summer. I remember there was a Sunday before the team was getting back, and my dad wanted to put in the pattern, and we were the only 2 people in the park, I think. And he goes, "Here, go, let's practice out in the bullpen." So we did a couple stripes in the bullpen. And he's like, "All right, let's go mow foul territory." And so we both double cut foul territory, and he's like, "All right, let's do the infield," and did the infield. And then I was like, "How'd I do?" He's like, "Oh, fine." The next day I was the infield mower, and I did it for the next 2 years. So yeah, it was fun.
You bet.
I never got to mow. Didn't even get to learn how to turn it. No, I was relegated to when the team's out of town, the neutral pattern mower. That's what I got. It was fantastic, though. It was honestly the most fun to be in the stadium by yourself, and you're just out there mowing the lawn. Just a fantastic, peaceful, incredible experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What else we got, Bob? Any other stories here? We're getting to the point here. We need to think about We know what you do. You do these things and we'll get done and then you're going to go, I didn't say this, I didn't mention that. Why?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of that.
I think the big one is probably your charity work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My first year there, I think Greg might have been my first guy, but I wanted him to be there with me, or these guys with me, and I just say, hey, why don't you be my guest groundskeeper? And then the next year, my kids went to Catholic school, so we knew about fundraising. So I'd auction off Billy to be the guest groundskeeper, and I did all the pre-work. I'd sign the people up and everything, but these guys did the work during the game with these people, because you didn't know who you were going to get. It could be grandma. You let them do what first of all, they're excited to be there, so you let them just be with you. But it worked. We raised over $1 million for charities for that one.
$1
million, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I always thought I was fortunate to be there. So give back to the community as much as you can. And I think it worked fine for both sides. I don't think they're doing it today, which kind of makes me sad. We used to donate our old turfers to high schools. Unfortunately, Foss got a lot of it.
A lot of everything. There was Christmas caroling with the grounds crew that raised money and donated coats.
Wonderful. Is that right? Yeah.
We had a golf tournament one year, but the guest groundskeeper was huge. I mean, people would pay insane value.
Thousands of dollars. The highest number was $7,000 when high-end auction.
Wrigley?
Yeah.
It was Wrigley.
No. Safeco.
Wrigley was the buyer.
Wrigley?
Wrigley family.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I think
I don't remember. Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, at many of the auctions, they'd ask Bob to bring the dancing grounds crew to perform before they auctioned off the guest groundskeeper thing.
Oh,
and we had one in the Seattle Center, down in Seattle Center, and once the auctioning started, it got up to right around $7,000. And Bob said, if somebody wants to match that, I'll give away two. So he did actually gave that one time. I think we made $7,000 or $15,000 at one auction.
That's right.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. What was amazing is that people wanted to see us dance. That was, I mean, if you really took a good look at it, Jay, we were all thumbs out there, man. It was like Roger said, or Joe said, we're all left feet, and it was. Well, we thought what are these people clapping for? What are they screaming and hollering about?
They loved it.
Yeah. The beautiful thing of the guest groundskeeper thing, obviously the charity and the money that we raised is just incredible, but it also every single day, because there was a guest groundskeeper almost every day, you would go greet them and you would just meet somebody who is so excited to be in a position that you're in every day. And for me, it was one of the coolest things, because I got to be reminded every single day of how cool it is that we're here. And I never took it for granted. And I think the guest groundskeeper, seeing their joy every day of coming down and being on the field for the first time for them, and just the joy that it brought to their family, got to come, and everybody's so excited to be there. And it just made me remember every single day, like, hey, this is actually incredible. And I get to do this all the time. That was the best part of it, I think, for me, other than the charity. Yeah.
We're getting there, folks. I've got a few things to close with, but does anybody else have a kind of a final thing here for us to hear, to listen to before I wipe up? Joe, what do you got for us?
Well, two things about Bob. I just want to say about Bob, and I learned early on, Bob was in the yes business. He anytime he got a call about something about, could this be done, could that be done, he never said no. He figured out a way to say yes, and he was just always about finding a way to say yes, whether it be an event or something on the field. And then the second thing I would like to say about Bob is that he built community amongst all of us. And Greg Christensen kind of mentioned it, I guess, Sunday in our pre-thing, but he built community. We celebrated, our kids getting married. We celebrated everything. and it was family. And he had, he didn't. It wasn't just somebody asked earlier, would you have done it for no money? Yeah, probably not. But at the same time, it was Bob built community, and that's I was just lucky to be a part of that community.
You betcha.
Well,
Well,
well stated.
it's
Jay, I don't know. I've got some pictures. I don't know if you want to share those, or if we have any time. If not, that's fine.
well, we need to do this. Those pictures, if you can send those to me in any manner, Joanne will certainly weave those into this presentation.
Okay.
I'd love to have those. You
Yeah,
bet.
great. I've got some of, my dad back in 82. And then I would say if there's another subject that we spend any time on, it'd be the Safeco Field groundbreaking ceremony in 97, which, he was still at Cheney. Stadium wasn't built, but the Mariners said, hey, we need a guy that knows what to do with grass and build us a field. So in the what at the time was a vacant parking lot, they found out where home plate was, and they put it down, and the whole crew joined, and we created a baseball diamond for the groundbreaking ceremony that, we were surprised Griffey joined us, and it was a great event. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's obvious to see the camaraderie that this crew right here has around Bob, and with all of you. You all have your roles, your part in it, and the culture that you've developed together here it's just remarkable. Gone to many games. We all know it's different if you're up in the top of the top deck, or if you're in the middle deck, you're down kind of close to the field. But when you're on the field, it's a whole new, different world from everybody else that has in the stadium. I'd go to games with my family, and I'd tell my two daughters, I'd say, what is Cheney Stadium? What's the one thing in common everybody on that field has? And that's from the players, managers, coaches, and the umpires. What's the one thing they have in common? And they're going, I don't know. And I said, they all want to go to the Major League Baseball. They all want to get into MLB. They want to get into the league. And what percentage of them do it? You folks did it. You went from high school fields, AAA, and you went to the big leagues with your crew, with the sodfather. So congratulations to all of you, what you've been able to do here. And Bob and your crew, just a big thank you to all of you for chatting with us today, sharing your thrills that you brought to us, seeing you do your magic at Cheney again, Safeco, T-Mobile, marveling at perfect grass, infield, outfield, and the contribution that you've all made to athletics here locally in Tacoma and Pierce County, Seattle, and as you're saying, even across our country here. So that concludes today's presentation. And on behalf of the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Museum, once again, I'm Jay Strickers, and we thank you for joining us for another edition of the Locker Room Chat, highlighting the life and times of Tacoma's own Bob Christofferson, a.k.a. the Sodfather, and his groundskeeping crew. Thank you.
Jay. Thank you.
Jay.
Thank you.
Jay.
Thanks, folks. Doggone, how much fun was this?
Awesome.